Welcome everybody to 2024. How freaking exciting is this? I've been alluding to the fact that I've got some secrets that I might need to tell you at some point. Thankfully, because it's 2024 now, I can actually share one of them. Now, the thing is, she's asleep. Now, as always, we start off a year with goal setting, and for today, we're going back to 2021's goal setting technique, which was to include a whiteboard. Only we've changed rooms because one of my goals one year was to build a studio space, and we're in it. I'm not going to talk about why you should listen to me about goal setting because I already did that in what kind of is part one of this, which was released a couple of weeks ago, but I'll go ahead and give it a link above just so that you can go and have a look at that and why I think goal setting is really important. But not just that, why maybe you should care about it too, because it's not just about achieving your goals, it's about developing as a person and having a lot of self-development in the process. So how do we do goal setting to actually make it achievable? I'm going to use the whiteboard and my really bad left-handed handwriting today to try and explain the different steps. It's fairly simple, to be honest. It just takes a lot of work and a bit of brain power that you're going to have to put in. Nobody is going to do this work for you, just like nobody is going to keep you on the straight and narrow following those goals through. In fact, one of the biggest things that you can take away from this video is that self-discipline is the biggest and most useful and the hardest form of self-care you can possibly have. But if you actually do commit and run things through with determination and dedication and try not to get distracted by shiny things everywhere, then you can achieve genuinely anything, as long as it's well planned. And so we'll start goal setting with exactly where you should begin, which is to work out what goals will actually make a difference to your life. Now, the goal I'm going to walk you through today is not a professional goal. It's not really even a personal goal to a certain extent. It's not a health goal, but all of those are valid and correct. So your goal could be to make 100 grand this year. It could be to make $1 million. It could be to set up a business. It could be to lose weight. It could be to quit smoking. It could be to build your own studio. It could be to buy a first house. It could be to buy your 10th house. It doesn't really matter what it is. It doesn't have to be related to photography just because we're here. The point is that you have something that you care about because it matters. That's the important thing. So I'm going to take you through a goal that's actually going to be really hard for me to do, but it's actually not that dramatic in any sense of the word. So what I struggle with is taking my eyes off of work. Work is and always has been and always will be for me the single largest priority in life. To a certain extent, obviously, I make sure I stay alive. I make sure that all of my animals are happy as well. But really, work is always and always has been and always will be the priority, which leaves me in a situation where I make sure everybody else has everything that they need and don't really take that much time for myself. And in the process, I've lost a bit of enjoyment. So I'd like to find my enjoyment again. That's a crap goal. Although it's a good goal, it's awful because find enjoyment again or enjoy stuff in 2024 is god awful. That's shocking. No one's ever going to achieve that because it's too vague. It's not smart. So we need to think when we look at goals and goal setting about being smart. So we have SMART. Now, if you already know how to do SMART goals, then you'll be able to sort of whiz ahead on this little process and kind of skip this part, but I mean at your peril, because did you achieve all your SMART goals last year? If you're watching this, perhaps not. So maybe stick with me for a little bit longer. I'm going to just chuck this for now because it's annoying me already. So to make my enjoy stuff again a bit better, we need to make sure that it's SMART. And these just stand for different words. So we've got specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. There's a time frame attached to it. And so usually my goals will be something along the lines of achieve a fellowship qualification, specific and measurable and technically achievable, within or by the end of 2023. For example, which makes it realistic and time bound. So that's a SMART goal. And mine are usually like that because they're linear with an end. What I'm really bad at, in all fairness, is setting and therefore achieving, because I don't set any of them, regular repeating goals where the same thing happens all of the time. It's just not really a big thing for me. I don't do the same thing over and over again. I get bored of it real quick. So that's my challenge for this time. So I need to find something that's going to challenge me. It has to be something that's fairly difficult to achieve. So for me, what I want to do is think of what can I do that actually I enjoy. And I enjoy photography without pressure, photography with creativity, to do something different, to push myself in one way or another. And so I'm going to use that. That's going to be my thing, even though it's not grandiose. And I know you'll be watching this going, oh, Jess, that's so boring. That's not making £1 million. That's not buying a house. That's not doing this, that, and the other. That's not, you know, doing anything dramatic. It's not. But the thing is that this actually is really important to me. So it doesn't matter what your goal is, follow the steps. So my specific one is going to be to photograph Wren, and we might build on this. Specific-ish, could be more specific, because it could be more specific if we go ahead and we take these out or amend it to make it even more specific. So get one, I'm trying to make this measurable at this stage as well because it's really important. Get one, great, and the definition of that for me is fairly standard. Get one photograph of Wren. Great. Of what? Of what? What can we do to make it measurable? So we've got one, we've got a number already, which helps to make it measurable, but we need something else. So get one great photograph of Wren per week. That makes it challenging for me because my schedule, if you've ever seen it, is like a car crash of mammoth proportions, and there isn't free time. So doing this in itself is going to be really difficult for me. So specific and measurable. We then go ahead and we do our checkbox exercises. So per week does give me a time frame, but I'm going to put an end date on it. So per week, for how many weeks? For how many weeks? For 12? For 3? For 1, that's an easy goal to achieve, nailed it. But we need to put something time bound on it. So we'll put for 2024. So for 52 weeks, there will be one great photograph of Wren delivered, essentially. So then I go circle back. So putting a time bound on it makes it realistic. We need to also make sure it's achievable. So these two is where we kind of like find any caveats if we need to have a caveat. So I know, for example, for 1 week of this year, I'm on the other side of the world. So I'm not going to be able to take that. So I need to be able to have some form of a caveat involved. And as long as I've made a mental note of them or written them down and they're the only ones, then we're okay. So is it achievable? Is this achievable? If I put 10 great photographs of Wren per week, it's not achievable for me. Realistically, not with the per week. I just don't have the time, and that in itself also makes it unrealistic. But this for me is realistic. So we have a goal. This is my goal. And this is the goal that we're hopefully going to follow through. Now, I do have another goal, a big one, a really freaking big one, but it's a 2-year goal. It's similarly specific and measurable. It is achievable and realistic as well. I just can't talk about it just yet. So the next step of goal setting is when you have your goal, number 1, freaking write it down. Don't leave that to chance. Actually write it down, write it somewhere where you're going to keep a track of it, you're going to follow it, you're going to make sure that you commit to it. But then usually you will be looking at a mountain. So if this is a mountain with a steep side on the other side, you're here. This is us at the starting point, and your goal can, especially if it's a large one, especially if it's financial, is right up here at the top. And so if you're not super disciplined and you're not super on track with goal setting, or you procrastinate a lot, then the distance between here and here is enormous, and you're going to get scared, give up and stop, especially if this is much further in the future. Because that's a long time to go between the two, you'll just give up. So what we can do is we can start to make this easier, simpler, and simplify your goal into chunks. So what we would do is we would set ourselves up little base camps as we go up this mountain, all right? So each of those little flags is a base camp that we can actually go and say, actually forget about this. At the top, forget it, we don't need it whatsoever. We just need to be able to get from A to B. And so you need to be able to look at your goal, your big one, and break it down. Try and break it down if it's over a year into 12-week cycles. It's a good time frame. If it's over 3 months, then maybe it's 1 per month would be the Basecamp. So if this is one SMART goal, you need to break that one SMART goal into steps. So if I get to here by this point, this is a SMART goal in itself, this is a SMART goal in itself, and this is a SMART goal in itself. So all of them are SMART goals. And then all you're looking at is basically making this jump instead of making that one. So you do your Basecamps, make sure you've got them nailed, so they're all SMART goals again. And for all of the members, all of this is detailed in excruciating amounts inside the membership. So that's step 2. Step 3 is to take the SMART goals that you've got. If that's like my one with Ren, then it's just one. If you've got Basecamps, that's all of them. So you want to take each of them and go, right, okay, so to get from here to here, what do I need to do? And this is the part where most people fall apart because they don't do it. But this part might be you need to find someone who is more experienced than you. You might need to get training from somebody. You might need help. You might need to actually get a professional in to do something. So these things are really important. So let's say, for example, your goal would be to lose weight, for example. Not particularly a strong point of mine in all fairness. But if we wanted to lose weight and we had our goal of losing 40 pounds, for example, and that was at P8, then perhaps this could be 5. Perhaps 5 pounds would be the first one. And so to get from A to B, as long as it's realistic in terms of the timeline that you've selected, then this bit could be to go get a gym membership. It could be to clear your schedule 3 days a week to be able to go to the gym and have sessions with a personal trainer and maybe speak to a nutritionist. These bits are all your little tactics. So your tactics break down each step. So you'll have multiple tactics going up the mountain to get from one goal to another. And if you have your tactics and can put them and plot them in a calendar, then we're already moving forwards into what I would imagine now is step 4. So when you have that and you have your tactics, so for me with my goal, my tactics are basically time specific. I need to make sure that I have that time allocated. Then we can start to look at our plotting. So what we can do is we can look at adding a little sub step in here. So the sub step that we're going to go with for A is really helpful for people who want to have a little bit more help in terms of making sure that this is 100% doable. And so the sub step that we're going to run with is what I'd call a plotter. So before you get to the point where we're scheduling anything in diaries, we're going to look at how this is going to fit. So you would have your goal, your overarching SMART goal, and essentially your starting point. Then you would have your tactics, and then your sub goal, and then your tactics, and then your sub goal. So your sub goal is also your Basecamp, all the way down until you have the actual goal. So when we have these plotted out, well, listed in a list, essentially, what you can do is you can use a spreadsheet, which is already available for the members. So it's already in there. Go and grab the settings spreadsheet. This is the plotter, and you would have week 1, week 2, week 3, all the way along out into the end of your goal. And then you would look at plotting these things in. So in week 1, we're going to do tactic 1. In week 2, we're going to do tactic 2, but actually tactic 2 spills out into week 3 as well. Then tactic 3 actually kicks in. We've got one batch of it here and then one batch of it here, and you Gantt chart all the way down to your sub goal, which should be achieved. And when you've done that and you've got that plotted out in a massive sheet, which is helpful. So I don't do this part personally, but that's because I've been doing this for years. This is really useful because you'd also be able to identify, actually, I'm on vacation that period of time. I've got the kids that week. I know that that's not going to happen. So then you might need to shuffle things out, and it might be that your goal itself, the time needs to be pushed backwards. You'll only know that by looking at this. So when you've got this done, / if you're not doing this part, at your peril, remember, at your peril, then essentially you've kind of done most of the work. Here, all that's left to do is to actually put it into your diary. So, for example, if we have a diary, very straight lines coming up here, isn't it? Very, very straight lines. And you have your time, so this is maybe 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., etc., etc., etc. And then you're looking at your schedule. Now, you do need some form of a scheduling system, whether it's a wall calendar, whether it's a digital calendar, whether it's the one on your phone, whether it's an actual diary, one of the ones from the olden days, you know, before technology existed, those ones. It doesn't matter how you do it, just find your own way. Some people bullet journal it, some people journal it, some people use, like I do, digital calendars or scheduling software, tools like Asana or ClickUp or something like that. It doesn't matter what you use as long as you use it. Don't waste all this time and don't actually implement. So when we've got this, we've got our Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so on and so forth. Then it's a case of looking through all of your weeks and plotting those things in. For me, I know I need shooting time, yeah? And I know I need retouching time every week. So what can I do now at the start of 2024 to make this goal actually doable? Well, first of all, I can ring fence some time in a week. So it might be that I use, for example, 7 through 9 on Tuesdays, and it's always going to be the same. It doesn't always have to be the same, you can move it, but 7 through 9 on Tuesdays for my photography, right? That means for my goal, not just general. Yeah, so 7 through 9 is literally ring fenced. No one else can have that time. What if I can't do a Tuesday? Don't give up, just move it. Tuesday can move into Wednesday or Thursday afternoon, or it can move into the weekend if it needs to. It doesn't matter, as long as the time is ring fenced and scheduled in. So then after I've done my photography, I need to retouch. Is it too much maybe to take out a whole day? Yeah, probably. Maybe I'll spend my Friday late afternoons after I finish doing my one-to-one sessions for photographers, and I'll spend this during my editing for my goal. Can't spell. Fairly standard for me. So then we're in this space where, okay, this is doable because it's scheduled in the diary. Maybe yours are really complex like mine usually are, in which case then you're going to be like, okay, so here is tactic 1, and then remembering I needed to do 2 things that week, here is tactic 2, and then let's move into the next week, and in the next week we'll go, okay, tactic 2 needed to be repeated, didn't it? And I've got some time here. Remember, at the start of the year your diary is fairly clear. So the only thing that's going to stop you from actually achieving your goal is you going, actually, I've got a job in, it's way more important than that, so screw it. Not happening anymore. Or do you know what, actually, I'm off out with the kids, I'm off out with my girlfriends, I'm off out with my husband, wife, whatever it might be. Don't want to do that bit anymore because that's more important. And the problem is that you're taking it out, but you're not moving it. So you're not going, okay, I'm going to do that because it's important. You know, I've got to go to dance class, I've got to go to the school play, I've got to go to the dog show, and you're going, can't do it. Actually, what you need to do is go, okay, what can move? What can I sacrifice? Because nobody's going to make these sacrifices other than yourself. And so because the goal is all about her, it's probably time for you guys to meet Ren. But not properly, because actually you'll meet her properly next week in the start of Ren Diaries. So, Ren, what do you think of the goal? Hopefully this was helpful.